Hey, I'm David. We are the Cola guys. George is not with me this morning, but we're going to push on in his absence. We have two amazing, phenomenal guests with us today. Ben Bounds with both Palmetto Mortgage and Follywood Productions. Good morning, Ben.
How y'all doing?
Good. And we've got Gritty Flyright, aka Wesley Liston, with us, country singer. We're going to be talking to here in a little bit.
This episode is brought to you by Dick Dyer Mercedes-Benz, the first Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina.
Do all these things, you don't put yourself in a position. So I think the challenging thing is me just learning the ways of a professional musician right now.
Got it. So where does Gritty Flyright come from? There's got to be a story behind there.
There's a long story. So a picture of school teachers sitting around going, I guess I need to make an LLC. I guess I'm doing this, all this stuff going on about 7 years ago. And the name, so there was a place on James Island called the Brick House Kitchen. And there was this nucleus of, and Ben knows this, and Graham and those guys were real music guys. If they weren't players, they had been to the shows that you dream of going to, like these real music heads. And when I was cutting my teeth there, and David and I, the bass player, we started cutting, and Jamal, we were all cutting our teeth there. And I remember coming off the stage, and the biggest compliment that we would consistently get is they would say, you have this raw and real and authentic sound to you. There is no, I can really feel what you're doing. And, I'm like, if you know me and you know my writing, I'm like, I can't be the raw and the real. I'm not like a heavy metal band. I'm not like the raw and the real, or the real deal and all that stuff. So my wife will tell you, about drove her nuts. I'm like writing hundreds of I'm writing all these names.
Yeah.
And I just keep writing and writing. And finally I was like, Gritty has always been this, or to have grit is always like this positive thing. If someone's got grit, it is real and it's raw, but in a positive way. I was like, I like Gritty. I was like Gritty. And then the second word, my grandfather, who helped raise me, would always just say fly right, like to be true,
yeah,
to be honest, and authentic. I'm like, Gritty Flyright. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I remember Graham was like, look, if it works out, he goes, you can be like Jethro Tull. You can be like Citizen Cope. You can be, he's like, there's so many people, that's not their legal name. And he's like, you could be great. And sure enough, I went with that. Same thing with the logo. I took a jar and I drew a bunch of circles, and I would sit down and just draw out, what does Gritty Flyright look like? I want it to be simple and clean. I just drew it up, and I sent it to my buddy Josh in Spartanburg County, and he made it like, a vector that I could use.
Yeah.
And so I made up the name, and I hope it represents. I think I got lucky because I don't ever clean up and too much, and I am a gritty. My accent's very gritty, and Gritty Flyright. I think I got lucky with that because I do like the logo. I do like the name. And when I started going on the radio, I remember Grace McNally, she introduced me as Gritty a couple years ago. And then they were like, can we call you Gritty? Can we call you Gritty? I'm like, I said, I'm married. You can call me whatever you want. I answer all types of stuff, So yeah, I think that's the name, is that it has now become like a stage name, I guess, for me, a moniker, or what would you call it, Ben? You're an English major. Is it a moniker? Like,
yeah, I mean, stage name, moniker, that's about right. I don't know that I can call it any better than that.
The best part about the best part about Gritty Flyright is that not only does it represent the sound, the look, it covers the entire brand, but when we do like a photo shoot, when we talk about social media and what do we want to present, any type of branding, I always tell people it's less is more. It's easy. The only thing you could do to not be gritty is to church it up too much, to clean it up too much. If I'm sitting here in a clean shave and a tuxedo or something, like, this is Gritty Flyright, you're like, okay. So I think Gritty Flyright is going to be good to me long term, because it's less is more approach for sure.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it just love that there's meaning behind it. So yeah, it's a fun story. But we've got I know you played last night up in Anderson, South Carolina. You opened up for Martina McBride. How was that experience for you?
Kind of surreal. I mean, again, I saw her in Columbia at the Colonial Life Arena that had fresh paint on it. And I was a student at Carolina at the time. She was opening up for Alan Jackson. Yeah. And I remember I loved her music. And because I love some of the more melancholy songs, you know, or the slower songs. Everybody's like, oh man, I love sad music. I told Ben when I first met him, I love sad country music. And she has shamelessly done extremely well with emoting and getting her message out with her songs. She's got, I don't know how many #1 hits. And if you look at them, I'd say 70% of them are about something of substance. It's sad. It hits you in the heart. I mean, when you think of Martina McBride, you think of, you know, she's got something to say. And a lot of times it's going to make you emotional. So I went and saw her. And then when Ben told me that this was the opportunity coming up in the fall, I was like, I was kind of blown away, but I was like, I took it very serious. The guys took it very serious as far as from a work standpoint. It was time to punch in and go to work. We didn't want to be up there acting like, you know, oh no, how do we approach this? We called rehearsals. We noted every little detail that you possibly could in the set. We tried to put together a plan that was our best foot forward, that we would just be an extension of her and Anderson, and just show that we were grateful. You want to be grateful to be there, but you also want to make sense. Like, wow, they came up there and they had a place on that stage. They deserve to be on that stage. And I think, I mean, that's why I got bags under my eyes last night. I couldn't unwind last night. I came back. My sister lived here 2 miles from the amphitheater. So I stayed with my sister last night. And I'm still kind of unpacking everything. Yeah. But I think overall we came up and we represented Ben and Follywood well. I think we represented ourselves well. I think we represented the state of South Carolina. And really, more importantly, I love this whole movement in country music. I think we represented country music well last night with our set. And so overall, I think we're proud of what we did, for sure.
Ben, you have anything to add to that?
Well, look, I agree. One of the things, one of the compliments I want to give to Wes and to the band is that when, you know, this show was in the works for a while, and it took a minute to get it signed off on by everybody. And so, you know, a big show, a really strong booking is like a toy for me, you know, and it's like I want to show it off and, you know, take it down the street, make sure everybody knows I've got this awesome new toy. But I couldn't do that. I had to sit on it for like 6 weeks, and I couldn't tell anybody. I just had to keep telling Wes, I said, do not book anything on September 3rd. He just kept being like, all right, I'll trust you, whatever. And finally I called him one day. I said, you want some awesome news? Like, you want to hear something that's like just fantastic? He said, yeah. And I said, well, that September 3rd thing is opening for Martina McBride and Anderson at the big amphitheater. And he was just like, what? And it felt so good to get a big win like that. But for him to take it so seriously, you know, less than 3 minutes into the conversation, he said, I'm going to call 2 rehearsals. I'm going to make sure we have the A-list lineup. We're going to have all of our merch dialed in. We're going to be there early. We're going to shake all the hands, and we're going to do all the stuff that we've got to do. And it was very very professional. And, you know, I've been in this business a long time, in and out of it. And I haven't always been able to honestly say that my clients are super professional and that I'm always proud of the work that they do. That just in the music business, that's a rare thing. It's a hard thing to say that you can always say that. And so one of the things I absolutely love about working with Gritty Flyright is that everything is professional and they do take everything seriously. But the flip side of that is they still know how to have a good time. And they do know how to harness and capture that magic. And our friend Richard Brindle, that he referred to as Dickie, who I went to school with 20-something years ago when I transferred to Ole Miss. So I've known him since my origins in the music business. He's right. That magic moment, it's fleeting and it's hard to catch. You know, it's like catching lightning bugs, fireflies, you know, and it's elusive and it's special and it's not for everyone. And you have to have everything kind of has to be in place, in the right place at the right time to harness it. And we certainly did that last night. When he said we put our best foot forward, he nailed it, because that's exactly what I felt like we did from start to finish there, and our entire operation. And you know, one of the things I try to do in this business for clients like Gritty is, you know, my job is to set the scene and make sure that everything they need is in place, that we've got a great opportunity at a great venue with a great crowd on a great date. I can't control the weather, you know, Mother Nature's still undefeated, but if I can get everything, if Follywood can get everything in place to make the scenario as close to perfect as we can for the artist to get up there and capture that moment and harness that magic and then give it to the crowd and the fans, then that's the win. That's the win we're going for every single time. That's like winning an SEC football game or you know, or a World Series baseball game. You know, I speak a lot in sports analogies because I'm a huge college football and Braves fan and all that good stuff. And so I'm very much I'm in tune with that. And Gritty and I we connect on that level, which is great. And so last night was one of those scenarios where we set the scene. The weather hit, you know, so we got a favor from Mother Nature. The crowd came strong. There were several thousand people in attendance. And they went out there and they hit a home run. You know, they threw the touchdown pass. You know, they hit the grand slam and it worked out. And I can tell you this, everybody that works at that venue from the top down was blown away and impressed by Gritty Flyright. And and I missed this, and I'm going to kick myself forever for missing this part. But my girlfriend told me when I finally got to my seat about 3 or 4 songs into Martina's set, she said, "Did you hear all the great stuff she said about Gritty?" And I said, "No, what?" She came out, she did the one song, and then after the first song, she said, "Hey, how about Gritty Flyright? How great were they? I listened to their entire show and from the backstage, and they were awesome, and they killed it."
Wow.
I was just sitting there like, what? And then she was very gracious and very appreciative towards the people of Anderson, South Carolina. She mentioned, you know, Anderson multiple times, and mentioned the organizers of the event and the fans for coming out strong. So when I say it takes, everything has to come together just right to harness and capture that magic. That's it. I mean, Gritty's right. And last night was one of those nights where it just all worked out great. But that comes from preparation and making sure everything is ready to go. And so it's not like you don't get lucky a lot in this business. You don't get lucky getting great gigs. You don't get lucky with the opportunities, and you don't get lucky. You don't not rehearse and not practice and just show up there and play a great show. There's just not a lot of luck. It's just like college football. You know, in a couple of weeks when Mississippi State and South Carolina square off over there in Columbia at Williams-Brice, and we're all going to be there. You know, the team that wins is going to be the one that put in the work. They took practice seriously, and they were prepared coming in, and they stuck to the script, and they knocked it out of the park. That's who's going to win that game, and that's what we did last night.
Yeah, so let's talk about college football
There you
and
go.
the South Carolina Mississippi. Well, we won't talk about this weekend, but
No.
we've got home game coming up this weekend at Furman, and then 2 weeks after that is the South Carolina Mississippi State game that I believe you two have a little bit something going on that weekend ahead of the game. You want to talk about? Share with us.
Sure. And real quick, and I know that this probably won't go to press in time, but the month of September in Columbia is a big month for Gritty Flyright and Bollywood Productions in the Midlands. We're going to start off this coming Friday, September 8th, with a big happy hour. It's the first happy hour before a home football game at CB18. Legendary Gamecock quarterback Steve Tannehill's new club, and Gritty Flyright's playing. The original time was 5 to 8. It looks like they're pushing it up to 4 to 7. So make sure you pay attention to both Gritty Flyright and Bollywood Productions social media, because I believe that's going to end up being an earlier show. I think it's going to go 4 to 7 or 4:30, 7:30, something like that. But we'll be right there in 5 Points Friday afternoon for happy hour. The next day, they're headlining the Gamecock Club tailgate party at Gamecock Village right across from Williams-Brice, and that's from like 3:30 to 6:30. So two great opportunities to see the band on the opening weekend of their home opener, and then we come back 2 weeks later, and this is the big one, kind of our September finale. We have Bollywood Fan Fest. It's our first festival in the Midlands. I think maybe we did one about 15 to 20 years ago, but I can't even remember. It's been so long. So we are going to be at Steel Hands Friday, September 22nd. We've got the venue from 4 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So it's all evening. And it's kind of a different concept. It's a collaborative event for both the University of South Carolina fans and alumni and the visiting Mississippi State fans and alumni. We're going to have 3 bands, Gritty's headlining, and we have Mississippi Shakedown, who's from South Mississippi, and their lead singer, Holly Rumbarger, who's based out of Nashville's Mississippi State alumni. And then opening the show is another Mississippi State alumni who Terry Powell is kind of infamous for an interview he gave at the College World Series in 2018. So I highly recommend you search YouTube for Mississippi State fan interview Omaha. It is one of the funniest things you will ever see in your life. But, he's kind of your local Starkville troubadour that plays happy hours around the University Boulevard and Cotton District areas of Starkville. He's a big Mississippi State alumni, deep in with that group. And we're going to have a book signing by best-selling author Steve Robertson. We've got about a half a dozen art and apparel vendors. I know we're going to have an appearance by the Garnet Trust, who we had at our Business and Bourbon event last week. They're going to come and give an update on NIL-related news. We're being sponsored by Cathead Vodka, who's going to come out and do some specialty cocktails, because Steel Hands Brewery has a full beer, wine, and liquor license, which is unlike most of the breweries in the state. There's only a few that have that. So that's going to be super cool. I mean, this is going to be, it's all ages, it's free to the public, and it's kid friendly. And so, hey, look, anybody can come. Doesn't matter what school you went to. Doesn't even matter if you went to school. Doesn't matter how old you are. But if you're a fan of live music and college football and locally made craft beer and stuff like that, we're going to have all that. And so I think it's going to be, I think it'll probably be one of the best events of that weekend. The Mississippi State Alumni Association agreed to not have their official event until Saturday morning. So we're getting endorsed by them for the visiting fans, which is huge. And then to have Garnet Trust on board as well, so that we can bring in both fan bases and really allow them to collaborate and intermingle the night before the game, I think it's unique. And I think it's something that if we pull it off, keep an eye out, because I think Fan Fest will probably be something we do a couple times a season.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned the craft beer. There's a little bit of a special release going on that weekend, right?
Yeah. Technically, they released it at CB18 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay.
But the Sandstorm Ale is the Garnet Trust and Cox by 90 and the Gamecock Central, they're all kind of, I think, involved in that. And Steel Hands is brewing that beer. So I've been promised that there's going to be plenty of Sandstorm in stock. So pretty excited about that. And then, selfishly, I made sure that we have Old Soul bourbon and Cathead Honeysuckle vodka from Mississippi on hand, and we'll have lots of specialty cocktails with that. And look, if you're a beer fan and you haven't been to Steel Hands, they are absolutely making some of the best local beer made in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, I tell you, the craft beer scene here in Columbia is just exploding, and Steel Hands is a great place to go. And you add entertainment like having Gritty there and your fan fest. Sounds like a great weekend in the making. Let's just hope there's a sandstorm in the actual stadium the next day.
Hey, look, I'm going to be pulling for South Carolina 11 times this year, maybe 12. But on Saturday, September 23rd, I got to be pulling for my Mississippi State Bulldogs. So it'll be Hail State all day for me. So y'all might want to not be right next to me. But look, Friday and Sunday and every other day, I'm all about the Gamecocks. But on Saturday, September 23rd, I'm going to be ringing my cowbell and yelling Hail State and go Dogs.
Awesome. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation with you guys. Ben, if somebody wants to reach out to you mortgage-wise or event-wise, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on all major platforms. Palmetto Mortgage Group is certainly easy to find. My email address, the best way to find me for the mortgage is ben.bounds@ccm.com. Very short, easy. And then for Follywood, if you want to put on an event, if you want to host a festival or a party or a concert, or if you want to book Gritty Flyright or one of the other artists that we work with, follywoodrocks@gmail.com, or you can message me directly through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter. So I'm on all those. Follywood Productions is on every one of those platforms. Super easy to find. We are pretty up to date and on top of our social media as far as the events that we have coming up, whether it's Business and Brews, Business and Bourbon, Gritty Flyright Tour, or Follywood Festivals and Events, whatever it is, you can find it all there. And if you want to book Gritty, obviously I'm not going to give you his cell phone number or email address, but you can call me or email me and we can set it all up.
Awesome. Gritty, how can we listen to your music or find you on social?
Kind of the same response there. It's pretty straightforward. GrittyFlyright.com is the website.
Awesome.
And within the web, we send people to GrittyFlyright.com because if Spotify is how you listen to music, you can get, there's, a link to Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Pandora, YouTube. It's on all major platforms. If you go onto the social media, some people want to message or, Facebook or whatever it is, that's fine. But we try to send traffic for booking to Ben at Follywood Productions. So, and all that stuff. But again, if you go to the website and you want to book a show, it's going to send you to Follywood.
Awesome.
So I think we're trying to connect, and that makes it a little bit easier. So Gritty Flyright, again, it's good to me. You Google Gritty Flyright, and other than Nitty Gritty Dirt Band popping up every now and then, there's no other Gritty Flyright. So, yeah, go to the website, take a look around, and appreciate all the support. Music, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, best of luck to you. It's a pleasure to meet you, and look forward to. I'm going to come down with my family Friday night, hear you kind of get in the mood for some football on Saturday, first home game against Furman. Ben, as always, great to talk to you, sir. Love what you're doing for the real estate community.